If you've used SOLIDWORKS for a while, you've probably come to realize the benefits of reusing data, especially in the form of library features, parts, and assemblies. SOLIDWORKS has taken assembly automation to the next level with the addition of smart components. A smart component is a part that contains all of the data necessary to allow it to be added to an assembly. This extra data can include other components that are necessary for installation, such as fasteners and other hardware, and it can also include features such as mounting holes. Imagine dragging an electrical connector onto a sheet metal part and having the appropriate cutout and screws appear automatically. All you'd have to do is position the connector and everything else is already done for you. But in order for this to work, you do have to first create your smart components. However, it's not that difficult, and if you've already used the components in an assembly, most of the work is already done. Take a look at this assembly. I have a perforated cover mounted onto a plate with a corresponding cutout, all fastened together with screws and nuts. If this were a cover assembly I use frequently, it would be well worth converting it into a smart component. To do this, I'll select Make Smart Component from the Tools drop-down menu. Or to add the Smart Component icon to your toolbar, select Customize from the Options drop-down, navigate to the Commands tab, select Assembly from the list of categories, and then drag the Smart Component icon onto your toolbar. You can now access the tool from here. In the Property Manager, I'll select the cover as the Smart Component. In the Component Selection window, I'll select the screws and nuts. These selections can be made either in the Graphics area or from the Feature Manager tree. When I activate the Features Selection window, notice the components I've selected so far will become invisible. Now, this makes it easier to select features such as the cutout and the holes I have here. If you did want to see the components, just click the Show Components button and they'll come back. I'll come back to the auto size option in a later example. For now, I'll click the Configuration Table button here at the bottom. This table lists the smart component, the cover in this case, as well as the other components you've selected. It allows you to specify which configuration of each component should be used with each configuration of the smart component. I only have the default configuration for the cover, but this table can be quite powerful if your smart component requires different size hardware or size cutouts for each configuration. For now, I'll cancel this table and click OK to complete the smart component. At this point, there's little evidence that anything has happened. However, if you look at the Feature Manager tree, you'll see the icon next to the cover has changed. If I right-click on it to open it, you can see a new folder was added to the Feature Manager tree called Smart Feature. Inside these folders are 3 other folders. One contains the features I selected, one contains the additional components, and the last one contains references necessary to properly position components in an assembly. An important detail here is that the smart component information resides within this part file, not at the assembly level. Once I save this part, the assembly I use to create it will no longer be required. If you need to make changes to a smart component, all you need to do is right-click the Smart Feature folder and select Edit in Defining Assembly. When you do this, SOLIDWORKS will create a new temporary assembly that is generated using the information contained within the smart component. Here you can edit the definition of the smart component by clicking the Edit Definition button to bring up the Smart Component Property Manager. Once you're done making changes, save and close the temporary assembly, and the changes will be updated and stored in the smart component. Once you create a smart component, you can add it to any assembly just like a regular component. I'll add the Cover Smart component to this assembly, and I'll use Mates as usual to position the cover. To enable the Smart Features stored in this component, you can use the Insert drop-down menu and click Smart Features, or you can right-click the cover in the graphics area and select Insert Smart Features. Or you can select the cover in the Feature Manager tree and click the star icon that shows up in the graphics area. To complete the Smart Features, you simply have to satisfy the references shown in the References selection window. As you select each one, the preview window will show you the reference required. In this case, I'll select the front of the panel for the first reference and the back of the panel for the second reference. Once these are satisfied, you have one more option here at the bottom. This controls whether you wish to have features and components update if you were to move the Smart component. I'll leave this unchecked and click OK to complete the Smart Features. You can see the screws, nuts, and necessary cuts were automatically generated.